At my company's annual review meeting, my supervisor snickered. She's like that plant in the corner. Always there, never really growing. Everyone chuckled as I pretended not to hear. 6 weeks later, when he needed a recommendation to save his career, he had to come crawling to the person he had publicly humiliated. And I never forgot how sweet that moment felt. I work in accounting at a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. Been there for 9 years. My name's Jill. I'm 42, divorced, no kids. I've always been the quiet type at work. I show up on time, meet my deadlines, double-check my numbers, and stay out of office drama. I don't gossip, I don't take credit for other people's work, and I don't miss deadlines. That's just who I am. My boss, Darren Leeds, was the opposite. 30-something, MBA guy, always talking too loud in meetings, throwing out buzzwords, pretending to care about team culture. He dressed sharp and had this fake charm he used when corporate was around. Most people thought he was funny. I didn't. He gave everyone dumb nicknames, always trying to seem like the cool boss. Called me Steady Jill, like it was a compliment. But I found out later, he had another nickname for me behind my back, the plant. Yeah, like a fake office plant. The first time I heard it out loud was at our annual company review meeting in April. It was called Celebration and Feedback Day, but it was mostly managers making speeches and trying to look important. Sometimes they gave out awards. Most of the time they just made jokes and tried to keep things light while they handed out performance reviews. I wasn't expecting anything. I don't stand out on paper. No flashy numbers, no huge projects. Just years of clean books, zero complaints, and quiet loyalty. Darren got up to talk about our department. He ran through a list of names, handing out compliments like candy. Great attitude, hard worker, real go-getter. Then he paused and smiled when he got to me. And then there's Jill, he said. You know, Jill's like that plant in the corner of the office. Always there, never really growing. The room laughed. Like, really laughed. I just sat there. My face went hot. My hands were clenched under the table. I heard a few people go, "Oh, like it was all in good fun." Darren added, "But hey, consistency matters too, right?" More laughs. I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I just smiled, that small, fake smile I've learned to use when someone steps on your pride in front of a crowd. I nodded like it was no big deal. But inside, I felt like someone had just flipped a switch. That night I sat in my car for 15 minutes before I could drive home. I stared at the steering wheel and thought, I'm done letting people like him walk all over me. I wasn't angry. Not yet. But something in me shifted. I felt sharp, focused. Over the next 6 weeks, I started watching him closer. I kept track of everything he did and said, especially the parts that didn't line up. Darren liked to talk a big game, but he was lazy underneath it. Always pushing his work onto the rest of us. Always asking me to double-check his numbers or make sure this gets filed because he was tied up in meetings. So I started saving emails. I made copies of reports he claimed he completed, but that I actually finished for him. I took notes when he blamed me for delays that were his fault. Quietly, without fanfare, I built a neat little folder. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet. I just knew I wasn't going to be the plant anymore. Then came the moment I didn't expect. 6 weeks later, Darren was up for a regional promotion. Big raise. Bigger title. But corporate needed a recommendation from a long-term employee who worked under him, someone who could speak to his team leadership and ethics. That's when he came crawling to me. He didn't even try to hide it. Just rolled up to my desk and said, "Hey Jill, I've got a favor to ask." I looked up from my computer. "Sure, Darren. What's up?" He shifted awkwardly. "So, corporate's looking for a testimonial from someone on my team, and I thought, who better than my most consistent team member, right?" I just stared at him, let him sweat. Then I said, "You mean the plant?" His smile froze. "What?" "You said I'm like a plant in the corner. Always here, never really growing. Remember that?" I said it calm. "No emotion." He looked uncomfortable. "Jill, come on. That was just a joke." Everyone laughed. I shrugged. I didn't. He paused. Look, I didn't mean it like that. I really do respect your work, and I could use your help on this. A lot's riding on it. I smiled. Not the fake one. A real one. The kind that says, I've been waiting for this. I'll think about it, I said, and went back to typing. That night, I pulled out my folder. Every saved email. Every note. Every task I completed that he claimed credit for. I organized it all neatly. Labeled everything. And I started drafting a letter, not for him, but for corporate. Not to take him down. Not yet. But to tell the truth. I wasn't done yet. This was just the start. I didn't rush. I waited. Darren sent me 2 follow-up emails that week, both polite, but laced with pressure. Just checking in, he wrote. Would love to include your perspective, it really matters. I didn't answer. Then, a few days later, I got a visit from HR. A woman named Camille, one of the newer faces, asked to have a quick chat. She sat me down in a glass office, folded her hands like she was about to deliver bad news. Jill, I want to talk to you about a complaint that came across my desk. It's regarding your interactions with Darren Leeds. I blinked. A complaint. She nodded. He says you've been withholding information that's essential to his promotion file, that you may be doing so deliberately. I laughed. I couldn't help it. A short, hard laugh. She frowned. This is serious. He says he's asked you multiple times and you haven't responded. I pulled out a copy of the last email he sent me. It said, no rush, but would be grateful to have your support. I slid it across the table. I wasn't aware that choosing not to help someone write their own praise is grounds for a complaint. Camille didn't say much after that. Just nodded and said she'd note my side of things. But that's when I knew something bigger was happening. Darren wasn't just being pushy, he was getting desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. The next day, I found something on the shared server that he clearly didn't mean to leave there. It was a draft of the testimonial, written as if it came from me. My name, my position, my words. All faked. It was filled with praise I'd never said. Called him an inspirational leader and a mentor who challenged me to grow. It even said I owed my success to him. I printed it. 3 copies. 1 for my folder, 1 for HR, and 1 I left on his chair before he got to work. He came to my desk 20 minutes later, red in the face. What the hell is this, Jill? I looked at him, calm as ever. Looks like fraud to me. Using someone's name without consent. Misrepresenting testimony in a corporate file. Should I go on? His jaw clenched. You think you're smart? No, I said, leaning in. I think I've been quiet for too long. That was the moment things started to turn. I had already sent the real testimonial to corporate, detailing my actual experience under his management. I didn't trash him. I just laid out the facts. How he delegated his work, how he took credit for mine, how he publicly mocked employees, including me. And I attached the fake letter with my name on it, just so they could see what kind of leader they were about to promote. But I wasn't done. 2 days later, HR called me in again. But this time, Camille wasn't alone. Beside her sat Brian Lewers, the VP of Finance. I'd seen him maybe twice before in person. He worked mostly out of the Chicago office. When he spoke, he didn't waste time. Jill, I reviewed your report. We also looked at the testimonial Darren submitted on your behalf. It's troubling. I nodded but didn't speak. I knew how this worked. Let them fill the silence. Brian leaned forward. I'd like to ask if you'd be willing to sit in on a formal review panel regarding Darren's conduct. Not just for the promotion. For his standing here. That caught me off guard. I thought maybe he'd lose the promotion, maybe get reprimanded. But this sounded like real consequences. I said yes. That week was a mess in the office. You could feel the tension. Darren looked like a ghost. He barely spoke to anyone. He stopped holding team meetings. He even started working through lunch, something I hadn't seen him do in years. Then something happened I didn't expect. Someone else came forward. A woman named Carla from sales. Someone I barely talked to, asked if we could grab coffee. We went to the little break room on the second floor, where no one ever goes. She sat down and looked nervous. I heard about what's going on with Darren, she said. And I wanted to say, you're not the only one. She told me about the time he blamed her for a botched shipment quote that lost the company a client. Said she had sent the wrong numbers. But it was his estimate. She had proof. She went to HR, but nothing happened. No one took her seriously. He said I was emotional, she whispered. That I was probably just stressed. I told her to go to HR again. She shook her head. They won't care. Not unless there's a pattern. That's when I knew what I had to do. I started talking to others, quiet conversations in corners over coffee, in parking lots after work. It was shocking how many people had stories. How many had been stepped on, mocked, silenced, blamed. So I compiled them. Not gossip. Not rumors. Only the ones who had proof. Emails. Reports. Slips of paper with dates and notes. Small things that, on their own, meant little. But together, they showed a pattern. I organized everything into one document and added it to my original submission. I called it Pattern of Conduct. I wasn't trying to destroy Darren's life. I just wanted the truth seen. I wanted someone, finally, to see us. That was the week Darren's world started to collapse. The final meeting wasn't public, but everyone felt it coming. HR called Darren in on a Wednesday morning. He walked past my desk with his usual swagger, but I could tell it was forced. No smile. No snappy tie. His eyes were sunken. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. He was in there for 2 hours. By noon, we got the email. Effective immediately, Darren Leeds is no longer with the company. That was it. No explanation. No farewell lunch. No speech. Just gone. People whispered all afternoon. Some acted surprised. Others not so much. Carla came by my desk and just nodded. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. But what hit me hardest was the email from Camille. Short. One line. Thank you for speaking up when others were afraid. I should have felt proud. But I didn't. Not at first. Because I had to face something too. I let it go on for years. I covered his mistakes. I stayed quiet when he lied. I let him laugh at me. I let him treat others the same way. I had a voice, but I didn't use it until it hurt me personally. That stung. So no, I wasn't a hero. I was just done being the silent one in the corner. About a week after he was fired, I got a message from him. A long, rambling email from a personal Gmail account. He said he was disappointed in how things turned out, said I misunderstood his humor, and that we could have worked through it if I hadn't gone nuclear. He also asked if I'd consider writing a neutral reference for a job he was applying to, said it would help him rebuild. I stared at that email for a long time. Then I wrote back one line. Plants don't grow when they're stepped on every day. And I hit send. I still work in the same office. Still sit in the same spot. But people look at me differently now. Not with fear. Not with awe. Just like someone real. Someone they finally saw. I water the office plant every week now. The one Darren joked about. I moved it closer to the window. Gave it light. And you know what? It's growing.